Today, we're going to get into the truly chilling story of a guy who looked like he had it all. I mean, he was an athlete, he was popular, he even had a pro sports contract. And then he became one of the most terrifying serial killers on the West Coast. So we're going to explore that shocking path and what his case can tell us about the science of murder itself.
So this is Randall Woodfield. Back in the early 80s, his name became a symbol of pure terror. The media called him the I-5 killer because of this horrifying string of crimes he committed all along Interstate 5.
But here's the part that just makes you stop and go, wait, what? Less than 10 years before he was arrested for murder, Woodfield was a wide receiver drafted by the Green Bay Packers, a professional football player. That is just a wild contrast, isn't it? From the bright lights of the NFL draft to a life sentence behind bars. It really makes you ask this deeply uncomfortable question. How in the world does a celebrated athlete, someone on the path to fame and fortune, become a monster?
Well, if you ask the guys who shared a locker room with him, the horrifying answer wasn't really a huge surprise. Looking back, his teammates realized, you know what? The warning signs were there the whole time.
Okay, let's really dive into this. Because long before any of the murders happened, his own teammates and coaches saw these really unsettling behaviors. Things that kind of hinted at the darkness that was hiding right under the surface.
So, for one thing, teammates talked about this strange, almost narcissistic obsession he had with his appearance. One of them remembered Woodfield had this really curly hair, but he would spend forever trying to straighten it. It was a kind of vanity that just felt off. And his presence was so creepy, it left this lasting impression on people. A former linebacker, Bill Hansen, said his girlfriend, who's now his wife of over 40 years, she instantly got this eerie feeling about Woodfield. She just knew something was wrong. And it got so bad that his own teammates at Portland State literally felt like they had to warn their coach, the famous Mouse Davis. They pulled him aside and said, "Coach, stay away from that guy. He's strange." They knew. So this is the crucial point. What is it, scientifically, that separates a killer like Woodfield from other murderers? It isn't just the violence, and it's not even just the number of victims. The answer, which is kind of surprising, has everything to do with time.
Right, we hear the term serial killer all the time, but what does that word serial actually mean when we're talking about crime? Turns out it's way more specific than you might think.
So, according to the FBI, it's not just about killing a certain number of people. The key thing here is that the murders are separate events. There are these big gaps of time between the killings. And that time in between the crimes, that has a name. It's called the cooling off period. This is when they have some emotional downtime, they go back to their seemingly normal life before they kill again. That is the single defining feature of a serial murderer.
And here's a simple way to see it. A mass murderer kills a bunch of people all at once, in one event. A spree killer commits their crimes in quick succession, maybe over a few hours or days with no real break. But the serial killer, they're different. They stop. They wait. It could be for weeks or months or sometimes even years. And then they strike again.
Okay, so how does this actually apply to Randall Woodfield? Well, let's take a look at the timeline of his crimes and see if we can spot that pattern, those cooling off periods. Now, this is just a partial timeline of Woodfield's confirmed murders. But as you can see, the time that passes between each killing really varies. I mean, you've got almost 2 months at the beginning, but then it shrinks to less than 2 weeks near the end.
So when criminologists went and analyzed his entire confirmed timeline, they found that Woodfield's average cooling off period was 32.25 days, just a little over a month, on average, between taking one life and feeling that compulsion to do it all over again.
So when you see a pattern like that, this kind of cycle of violence, it leads you to the next really big question. Is there a biological reason for this? Is there something physically different inside a killer's brain?
And what's wild is the answer seems to be yeah. Neuroimaging studies have actually found observable physical differences in the brains of murderers, differences that set them apart even from other violent criminals. So researchers talk about this sort of perfect storm of biological factors. It can be anything from imbalances in brain chemicals that regulate aggression to having specific genetic markers. And like we just saw, it can even mean actual structural differences in the brain, like having less gray matter in the exact areas that are supposed to control our emotions and our impulses. But, and this is so important, biology isn't destiny.
Neuroscientists like Dr. James Fallon have found that these biological predispositions often need a trigger. It's this terrifying mix of nature and nurture. A brain that's vulnerable to violence gets activated by some kind of trauma during those crucial formative years.
The science gives us some clues, for sure, but it doesn't totally explain our society's ongoing and, let's be honest, kind of disturbing fascination with these people. Why are we so drawn to the stories of those who do the absolute worst things imaginable?
It is a really strange and unsettling thing when you think about it. Randall Woodfield has been married 3 times while in prison. Just like other infamous killers, he gets fan mail. He even attracts romantic partners. You just have to ask, why?
Well, there's actually a clinical term for this. It's called hybrosophilia. You might have heard it called the bad boy fetish, but this is that idea amplified to its most extreme and dangerous level. Being attracted not just to someone who breaks the rules, but to someone who has actually taken lives.
So in the end, the story of the NFL draftee who became the I-5 killer, it just leaves us staring down one of the oldest and biggest questions there is about the nature of evil. Are monsters born with a flaw in their biology, or does the world we live in create them? And the answer, it seems, is a really terrifying combination of both.